Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about a very serious subject. And so I hope that people will really pay attention to this, because we're going to be talking about mental health. And I think it is something that, especially now, because of COVID, because of the pandemic, is an issue that is more and more in the forefront. And so we're really going to be talking about this, but we promise we're still going to have some fun with this and have a good time. But, please join me in welcoming my guest today, Cindy Tschosik. Welcome, Cindy.
Oh, thank you, Deb. It's wonderful to see you and hear you and be on your show. Thanks for having me.
I love it. I love it. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this because, as I said, this is a very important subject. So
great.
Cindy Tschosik is a mental wellness speaker and ghostwriter. She's the CEO of SoConnected and the author of Called to Lead: Success Strategies for Women. Cindy has been a longtime thriver and advocate for mental health. After living through mental diseases and developing tools, practices, and habits to help herself maintain mental wellness every day, she now shares her humorous stories and tools she's developed with her audience. When Cindy is not on stage or screen, we get to do that again? Really? She is ferociously ghostwriting books for mental health professionals who desire to share their experience to help their readers and mental health influencers who are called to share their journey to achieve mental wellness. To keep her tongue sharp and her pencil sharper, Cindy belongs to many speaking and writing associations. She is happiest writing books on the beach and is even happier to be with us here today. So again, Cindy, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Great, great. Well, I always like learning more about my guests. So tell us how it is that you got to where you are today and how you know that this truly is your passion in life.
Oh boy. Well, a whole long list of different careers and different experiences. And then of course, things that don't go so well. So it's been quite a life of different careers. I've been in the legal field for 7 years as a paralegal. I was in IT and business analyst for ComEd. And I've done, let's see, what else have I done? I've done construction, IT systems. I've done corporate, nonprofit, development, marketing. I opened up my own.
So much experience
About all kinds of things. And in 2013, I opened up my own company, SoConnected, as a marketing agency.
Oh, okay.
And I did that for 5 years. I ended up working with a lot of speakers as their back end office, with ghostwriting their articles, ghostwriting a couple of books, running their, designing their website and all their advertising and social media content marketing initiatives. And after 5 years, I wanted something different. And I knew I was going to ghostwrite books on a beach when I retired. And ghostwriting was the best, what I enjoyed most about the agency. So I just kind of streamlined into ghostwriting full time and been doing it ever since. I just have to find the beach.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you're in Chicago. Well, I guess there are beaches there, because that lake is rather large, but those don't count.
Yeah, and especially when you can only use them a few times a year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. When people talk about lake effect snow,
Yes.
I'm from Colorado, and no. Lake effect is
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's why I'm here today. And my mental health journey is sort of what led me down this path.
Okay.
And it's definitely a calling. Because when I was called to start talking about it, it was just a journey. And I just I always, kind of follow the breadcrumbs when I'm being led a certain way. And I was happy behind my laptop ghostwriting books. And a client of mine who was also a mentor, Colonel Jill Morgenthaler, told me I would be speaking on stage in 2 years. And at that point, I was
You're
involved.
like, no, I hide behind the computer.
I was involved in National Speakers Association just to find out what we could do best for our speaking
Okay.
clients. And she said, no, you're going to be talking. I'm like, I like typing. So sure enough, within 2 years, I felt I was called to start talking about my mental health journey. And I shared with her. I had started my presentation and everything. She was so excited. We were having lunch one day and she said, oh, I'm going to mentor you. I want to coach you. I'm not charging you. I want you to be the best you can be. And it was absolutely exciting. The best lunch I've ever had. And unfortunately, she passed away 3 weeks later.
Oh, no. Oh,
scuba diving accident. And so that was devastating. And the one thing I learned about that is the importance of us having a book. Because it is definitely her legacy. And I have a piece of her. She signed it for me. So I have a piece of her with me all the time. And so that was just a good silver lining and a very dark day. And so I did continue my journey to speaking, and I've spoken about mental health and mental wellness for a couple of years now. And this year I really joined the forces of the ghostwriting too. So I was ghostwriting primarily business books and family books. And when I really decided that I really wanted to focus on ghostwriting, psychology is my love. I love psychology. And I just decided to ghostwrite mental health and psychology books and bring that together with my speaking. And it's all worked out very well. So
I love it.
Nice to have a niche.
I love it. Well, and I was thinking with your ghostwriting, it's technical. And I'm guessing bring kind of the layman's perspective to it. So that so they'll say there's this and this and this, which is above everybody's head. And then you say, okay, well, let's phrase it this way so I can understand it.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is while I was in IT, I wrote technical. So whatever job I was in, no matter which industry, they always relied on me to do the writing. And so it was always something that came naturally to me. So yes, so a lot of times I have to translate into layman's terms. So it's a great pleasure and honor to help people, find that space where they can help others and simplify it and make it real and tangible for people.
Right. I love it. And we talk a lot on this program about finding that niche and, and drilling down and drilling down and drilling down. And of course, people go, but there's so few numbers. I want to reach the bazillion people. Well, but if the bazillion aren't the right people to be reaching, then it's a waste of time. And so by saying, okay, you're going to work with this very specific group of people, you know exactly what your marketing is going to be. You really do have it down to where you can best serve them.
It is. And it took me 8 years to believe in the niche.
Yeah, because we do, right? We want to reach as many people as possible because we think that's the only way to make the money.
Exactly. And so when I niched earlier this year at the very beginning of COVID, I was shocked at how much easier my business was because I know the marketing, just like you said, your marketing, the people, the work that you're going to do. And also the right people start flocking to you because you're so sure in what you're doing and that you can help others do that type of work that they're looking for. So it's really been phenomenal. I believe wholeheartedly in the niche.
Right. Yeah. I've shared this story before. I was at a networking event in Colorado years ago. And, you go around, you do your 30-second spiel, and this woman sold skincare products. And so, who's your perfect market? Well, everybody, because hello, we all have skin, right?
Yeah.
And we all went, and none of us could figure out somebody to refer to her. It was just the funniest thing in the world. And so she started really thinking about it. And so the next time she came back, she said, I sell skincare products for teenage boys who have acne. And we all went, bing! We knew immediately who to refer to her because, and that's the key to this is, you want to make it easy for other people. Yeah, we all knew people who had skin, But we didn't know, we didn't know, okay, were they a good fit? All those things. No, we knew teenage boys and, teenage girls, but and I don't know why she picked teenage boys. I think she had teenage boys. But yeah, I mean, we immediately knew somebody that we could refer her to or could think about it in the future. I mean, she just, her name was the person that we always thought about. And did it restrict? Of course. But at the same point, I mean, she did sell skincare products. And so other people went, okay, well, I'm an adult with acne, or I've got these problems and that. But yeah, when she got that niche, we all immediately could help her.
Yeah, it's remarkable. So definitely a good adventure to have in your business and include it.
Yeah. So, you have personal reasons for the fact that you chose to work with mental health. And, it's so interesting. I was reading the chapter that you wrote for your book, which is again called to Lead, Success Strategies for Women. And it's you and, I can't read with my glasses, 18 other women, inspirational women. And so can't wait to read the whole book. But, it's so many things. There's so many things that go on in people's minds regarding the thought of depression. And part of that is because we're so used to what we have seen on TV, what we have read in the media, and those are, for the most part, extreme cases. And we all forget that there's, things that are so much more in between. So first of all, give us some basic definitions.
Well, gosh, Deb, you hit it right on the head. We see what we see on TV. A lot of times, as I was growing up, we thought that people who were depressed stayed in their bed all day.
Right. And cried.
Yes. And crying, and we didn't leave and everything. And so you have that, I guess, stereotypical situation that you think is depression. That's how it's defined. And then you have stress, which, we can blame everything we feel on stress, right? And yet we don't know what's in this middle in between. You're either in bed all the time or you're completely stressed out of your mind, thinking that it's just stress. And the other complexity of it all is that it sneaks in on us. And we don't even know it's coming. Right. And all of a sudden, things feel a little off in our household or in our family or in our work, and we're just not quite feeling ourselves, or we're exhibiting different behaviors than we normally do, and we just accept it as our new norm. So, for instance, when I was having a really, really hard summer in 2008, I was really stressed with staining a deck. So I don't know why that threw me off. My kids were 6 and 5 and 5. So my daughter is older, and then I have 2 twin boys. My husband traveled a lot. We had a lot going on all the time. And I was stressed, but I was also crying at the drop of a hat. I was angry. And if you can imagine a rubber band, I was stretched to the
it's getting tighter and tighter.
It was going to snap, and I was going to shatter. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, okay, this must be my new norm. I have little kids, husband's traveling. It's just the way it goes, right?
It's just the way it's supposed to be.
It is, right. And moms are supposed to take care of everything. And in addition to that, I was also declining every invitation to the pool or to an outing with the kids, with my friends who had same age kids. So I learned later that that's isolation. You kind of go into a cocoon. You don't want to be with other people. So I had a friend come over one summer day, and she brought some lemonade. And I was explaining exactly what I just shared with you. She asked how the summer was, so I just shared with her. And at the same time, there was a cable man on the telephone pole fixing the cable. My wonderful children were frolicking in the yard. I only thought frolicking happened in bedtime stories. So, and I'm sitting there sobbing, drinking lemonade with my friend, and which I don't normally do. I drink lemonade. I don't cry.
Right.
And I'm sharing this with her, and she leans in and she said, Cindy, she's like, I think you might be depressed. And I said, depressed? What do I do about? Like, that doesn't make any sense. We have a house over our head. We have food on the table. We have a great husband, kids, blah, blah, blah. We could go on and on. And she said, that's not how it works. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, well, depression looks different in all of us. So the symptoms are different in everybody, right? She said, when I am depressed or anxious, she said, I suffer with, I become a witch with a bee, right? And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She's like, some people, don't want to get out of bed. Some people are angry like she was, or stressed like I was to the max of a rubber band, over working, obsessed about a project, or, short-tempered. There's just so many different symptoms. And sites like WebMD or Mayo Clinic, they list, lots of the symptoms.
Right.
And go and search those anytime. Always make sure it's a qualified, reputable.
Yes. If you're going to Dr. Google, make sure it's a good site.
Exactly. Because the doctors, the last thing they want to know is that you are on Google. I've had my doctors.
Oh, yeah. They don't like it when we say, well, I found such and such on the internet. They're like,
They hate it. But, we do need to get to know ourselves better. So the symptoms, vary for all of us. And the other thing, I mean, I learned so much that day because I said, well, so now what? And she said, well, she says, it's a mental disease. She's like, it's not something you can shake off.
Right.
And when you've had it, have had symptoms that you're not feeling yourself, or you've had these symptoms of depression or anxiety for 2 weeks or longer, that is when it's time to seek medical treatment.
Okay.
And the
wow,
reason
just 2 weeks.
2 weeks is all it takes, because if you look at the spectrum, so many diseases, disorders are on a spectrum.
Right.
For instance, ADHD or autism or Asperger's. There's dyslexia. My daughter has dyslexia. There's a spectrum. So in depression, you can have the blues, or unfortunately, you may be hospitalized, right? Psychiatric care.
Right. Yeah, because you might be suicidal. You might, things like that.
Exactly. So the blues, when we have the legitimate blues, that's something we might be able to shake off in a half a day or two, right? But when it starts really interfering with our life and getting involved in our life and growing greater and causing more issues, and it's been going on 2 weeks or longer, you're absolutely, suffering with something other than stress or the blues. So if for all your listeners and for anyone, Deb, if you can recognize yourself in these symptoms and it's been going on for 2 weeks or longer, it's time to see your doctor like today or tomorrow, as possible. That's how important it is, because it can spiral down into really, really dark thoughts. And then, of course, like you mentioned, suicidal thoughts and that kind of work. And that's definitely where we don't want to go. We don't want to get to that phase of the storm, as I call it. So 2 weeks or longer, see your doctor as soon as possible. When she made me promise to see her, my doctor, I promised her, and I worried that I would have to fake it, because usually when you go into the doctor, you're confident, or you're coughing or whatever, right? I
know. How are you doing? Fine.
Yeah.
How many times do we tell that to the doctor? And then I'm like, okay, if I was fine, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly. So I couldn't even get fine out of my mouth, and I started crying like at the drop of a hat. So she obviously knew something was up. And and it's super simple, because all they do is they do an assessment for 20 minutes, or not 20 minutes, a bunch of questions. Of course, they let you, they keep you for 20 minutes.
Right.
But it's just a simple assessment. They do a bunch of questions. You answer the questions. At the end, they can tell you, what they think, you've come across, what you're coming across and experiencing. And there's 8 different types of depression.
Wow.
Spectrum. And that anxiety too has its own spectrum. So they'll be able to tell you like which, maybe it is depression, it's anxiety, maybe it's not, but at least And then from there, they talk about the different treatments. So it might be medication, it might be psychotherapy, it might be a combination of both, it might be some other things, because there are things that we can do for ourselves, like exercise and eating healthy.
Right.
All those things are important. Because mine had been going on for months, I opted for the medication.
Right. Because you needed to do kind of more dramatic type of treatment.
Exactly. And I wanted to feel better, because when my friend said, she said, the one thing she said, I felt more like myself. And I thought of that, and I thought I didn't even realize I wasn't myself anymore.
Right. And you don't remember what it's like to not feel like this.
Exactly, because it seeps in slowly, surely, think of like, anything that just kind of like water seeping into your basement,
Right.
it's kind of a
Yeah,
slight.
you don't notice that you're underwater till you're underwater.
Right. And so when I started the medication that day, the rubber band that I had was no longer taut. It was a little bit of slack. And then that was within 3 days.
Wow.
So there were definitely neurotransmitters that were not connecting the right way. And then another 3 days, and I felt like I could breathe. And then like within 2 weeks, I was feeling more and more like myself. I'm like, geez, where did I go? Like, where have I been? And so it was just remarkable to be able to like kind of grab onto life again and feel good and calm and neutral. Just getting back to neutral felt amazing and freeing. And, the whole family felt it. In fact, now my husband, if the thing with medication, a lot of people say, oh, take a happy pill, you'll always be happy.
Right.
It doesn't mask your emotions. You can ask your husband, because I still cry. I still, lose my temper every now and then, but it's not constant, and it's not, shifting my whole makeup of who I am. Yeah, it was very interesting, and lots of lessons learned there.
Right.
Sure.
And there is still, and who knows how long this will last, the stigma of a mental health disease. Right. And it is a disease just like any other type of disease. And so that's why there shouldn't be a stigma. I mean, if you say I'm a diabetic, or I have cancer, or celiacs, or whatever, we all go, oh dear. Yeah. But if you say, I'm depressed, people are like, no. And so, or, my favorite is, oh dear, is it that time of the month? I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have those parts.
Right.
But there is, and I think some of that does come back to, TV, all of those things. And many of us had, the crazy uncle, whoever, or, all of those things. And of course, those were the extremes. And, and unfortunately, those people frequently did not receive treatment.
Right.
But yeah,
there's so much we didn't know back then. There's so much.
Oh yeah. You just went, oh, that's crazy Uncle Charlie. Watch him. He's crazy Uncle Charlie. And you hope, crazy Uncle Charlie didn't do anything, that either injured himself or others. But we all went, ooh, crazy. Ew. And right, because it's not, that's the term. We're like, oh, crazy, wonkadoodle. I mean, there's negative terms that we use, and we don't say that with other people. I mean, that's the whole weird thing, is we don't go, there's not negative terms to say, if someone has, the normal type of disease, we don't have derogatory terms, but we do for mental health. And I mean, that's probably one of the first things that we really, and personally, I mean, I also, oh, he's a little wonkadoodle, isn't he? No, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's so true. Just like you said, cholesterol, high blood pressure, celiacs, it is a disease. In fact, the experts just changed it from disorder or illness to disease, so that we could start breaking that stigma and lumping it together with other issues that we have. And what I'm hopeful for is, especially this year with COVID, so many celebrities are coming forward and talking about what they have suffered through, right? And athletes and executives, and people are sharing their stories. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved in this, and is to help break the stigma, because the more we talk about it, the more we share our own stories, the more normalized it will, it'll neutralize it. Like, we can still function. It's not that, like Uncle Charlie, he might have had a lot more issues. My grandparents were both alcoholics. So for me, I do believe it's hereditary. It's just I'm the first one who went for treatment because we knew better, right? If you had it back then, a lot of people could be put in the insane asylum,
right, the homes.
homes, and then they didn't get proper treatment, so they weren't able to function or carry on life. So there's just been so much medical intervention and medical advances and talking about it, and people coming forward and talking about it, and that we've been able to live with it and live through it, and yes, it affects everybody around us, but when we take care of ourselves, things are better. And definitely, taking the medicine, if that's your path, is absolutely and incredibly important.
Right.
But I am hopeful that the stigma is going to go away over the next few years, because so many people are talking about it. Resources coming aboard by the numbers online. Media is talking about it. It's a major news story several times a week. So there's a lot of hope for us.
Well, and we're realizing that it is a disease, like you were saying. And because, how many times, have we either thought or, people have said, well, cheer yourself up or buck up or whatever, it's like you can fix it yourself. If we could fix it ourselves, don't you think we would? I mean,
we would.
And it's the same thing with, say alcoholism, if somebody could stop drinking, they would. Exactly. But there's, there is something that is there, and it's just, it takes more. And and the thing we need to remember is there's nothing wrong, and I think that's the other thing is we think, well, what's wrong with you? Well, again, you don't say that to somebody, like if you were to say, hey, I have diabetes, I wouldn't say, well, what's wrong with you? Exactly. And so it is, it's that mental shift that we need to make, or that everybody needs to make, to think, okay, this is something that is, affects so many people. I mean, I almost use the word normal, but it's normal in the fact that it's along with all these other diseases.
Yes, exactly. It is normal in that way. And also COVID has increased mental health issues and diseases 30% since the beginning of COVID. So, and a recent stat that I saw, more than 2 out of 5 people are struggling with mental health diseases in some way, shape, or form. So that's more than half of us. And so it's just really fascinating. And, so we all know somebody. If it's not ourselves, we all know somebody who is somewhere on the spectrum of suffering, either depression, anxiety, or other things. And the interesting thing about it is that when you're suffering through it, and it's part of these 8 types of depression, one of them, which I thought was really interesting, was one that elderly people can experience. And that's a depression where they're depressed until they have something to look forward to. So if they're living in a home, or they're living on their own, or with their spouse or partner, they, are depressed the whole time until like their daughter or grandchildren call. And
they're expecting a new grandchild, or
or they're going to the game, grandkids game, or there's a party coming up. So that was interesting to me, because it's so, I'm sure so common, and people just say, oh, there's nothing to do, I'm bored, maybe masking it with boredom, or where, when you're younger, it's stress. And, so there's things like that we need to be aware of when we're caring for other people, when we have loved ones around us, or people who are on our teams. There's a lot of work that can be done in that aspect. And sometimes that can be difficult. So some ways that you might recognize it in others, obviously, we talked about a lot about the symptoms. And if you're also noticing things that they're not their normal selves. So we talked a little bit about the show about how can I tell from seeing them on Zoom when I'm used to seeing them in person. It's a little bit more difficult, but there definitely can be cues. So for instance, one of them could be, let's say the person is always prompt, like my husband, Big Ben, right? I call him Big Ben. I'm always usually late, I'm running late somehow. We're total opposites. So let's say that I don't think me being on time would be an indicator. I think maybe something.
Okay.
But let's say my husband was all of a sudden missing meetings, or
Mhm.
he's coming in late.
Right.
He might look unkempt.
Mhm.
So maybe the hair is not
Mhm.
washed, or
Mhm.
hygiene, or maybe they're off camera
Mhm.
because they just don't feel good. They're oversleeping.
Mhm.
So, and they're saying things like, well, I'm going to go have a cocktail at
Mhm.
happy hour or noon.
Mhm.
One of the things medical experts have noticed is that people are taking up day drinking, including breakfast drinking more.
Oi.
So putting Baileys or vodka in
Mm.
their coffee is
Mhm.
a thing right now. And I know a couple of people who are doing that,
Mhm.
and I'm concerned about them.
Mhm.
So there's things like that that you can
Mhm.
notice people are doing, right?
Right.
And it's really important that we sort of, like, my friend came over, and it was like the friend next door, right?
Mhm.
We had that
Mhm.
conversation. She had that nice conversation as if she was the friend
Mhm.
next door,
Right.
and helping me through it and
Mhm.
asking me questions,
Mhm.
and just keeping it kind of low key. I
Mhm.
mean, even when we're managers,
Mhm.
have you ever had to have a difficult conversation, dealt with,
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So in this situation, you have to almost tone it down a little bit more than you would for
Mhm.
like a disciplinary action,
Mhm.
because you want them to open up, and you want them
Yes. Mhm.
to say, what's going on. So
Mhm.
you get them the
Mhm.
resources and get them the help they need. And maybe they need some more time off work. Maybe
Mhm.
they need a schedule change. Maybe someone in their family is going through something. So there's all kinds of
Mhm.
cues that people give us when they
Mhm.
are suffering,
Mhm.
like, oh, I just don't want to get out of bed.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm drinking so much more. Ah, I
Mhm.
gave up exercise, and they're a
Mhm.
total fit person. Or maybe they're losing weight.
Mhm.
Maybe they have a spiritual practice that they're very good at. Like
Mhm.
for us, it's like going to church,
Mhm.
right? So maybe they're not going to church anymore,
Mhm.
or they're starting to question their
Mhm.
faith. It impacts your
Mhm.
physical, your emotional, your
Mhm.
psychological, and your spiritual
Right.
sides of you, and it's
Mhm.
all inextricably
Mhm.
interchangeable.
Mhm.
Right? So the physical pain that people could endure is like a lot of back pain,
Mhm.
and you can have headaches. You
Mhm.
can have, just
Digestive issues, I would think, would be because
exactly.
the just the stomach acids that you've got going on because of this.
Absolutely. And that brings me to a funny story. About 4 or 5 years ago, the kids and I were in a major car accident, and
Oh.
I think I felt a bubble
Mhm.
surround us from
Mhm.
heaven or somewhere
Mhm.
that protected us, because there was
Mhm.
no way we should have survived this
Mhm.
accident with only a couple of bruises.
Mhm.
So it was very, very interesting. And so luckily, and and I was really feeling that I was feeling off, so I felt like
Mhm.
there needed to be an adjustment in my medications.
Mhm.
And I had a stomach ache. It felt like there was a concrete block in my
Hmm.
stomach,
Mhm.
and I was feeling nauseous. I didn't want to eat. I didn't have an
Mhm.
appetite. So I went into the doctor to adjust the depression
Mhm.
medicine, because I
Mhm.
figured, well, maybe that's what it's from.
Mhm.
And so as she, changes the medicine, I said, "Can you check my stomach?"
Mhm.
And she said, "Well, what's wrong with your stomach?" I said, "I think I have a tumor." This goes back to Googling
Right. Yes. Mhm.
stomach
Mhm.
pains.
Dr. Google said, "Eat, eat." Mhm.
Exactly. And she's like, okay. She's like, "Well, what's going on?"
Mhm.
So I told her what I just shared with you. And she said, "Well, how long has this been going on?" I said, "About 2.5 weeks." And she
Mhm.
says, "Well, what happened 3 weeks ago?" And I said, "Oh, I was in this major car accident with my
Mhm.
kids." And so then I'm thinking, oh, is it internal bleeding and stuff when she
Mhm. Right.
and then she's like, "Oh, well, that's anxiety." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Anxiety feels
Mhm.
like a concrete
Mhm.
block in my stomach,
Mhm.
and so that was enlightening to
Mhm.
know that that's how it shows up.
Right.
So, and my son, his anxiety showed up from being bullied at school
Mm.
and
Mhm.
back pain, and it was
Mhm.
so severe that the doctor had a whole body scan done.
Oh. Mhm.
And so we thought he was going to light up with
Mhm.
cancer or something
Mhm.
else. And it was completely clear.
Mhm.
And we found out that the boy who was bullying him,
Oh.
and where his anxiety
Mhm.
ramped up, was
Mhm.
whenever the kid was in the class with
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
So it does show up as pain,
Mhm.
foot pain, stomach pain, like you
Right.
said, all kinds of things.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
we need to, and we know our bodies.
Mhm.
So when we know our bodies, and,
Mhm.
and our bodies talk to us,
Mhm.
and if you're not tuned into those
Mhm.
things, and something's going on and all the doctors can't figure out what it is. Well, it could be
Mm-hmm.
a mental diagnosis.
Right.
And so it's good to be in tune with things and
Right.
tell the doctors what's going on.
Oh yeah. Well, and yeah, because they're not mind readers, like we said, we go in and they say, how you doing? Fine. And so, we have to tell them. And the important thing is, if they're not listening, then you need a different medical practitioner.
Exactly.
And I don't care what it is, whether it's mental or physical health. If you don't think you're getting the answers, then you need to go to somebody different.
Exactly.
It gets a little tricky with insurance, but you need to do that. But COVID is just, it's done so many things. I think there's been a lot of good things that have come from it, which is very bizarre. But everybody has been isolated, both forced and by choice.
Right.
It's funny. I haven't been to an in-person networking event in 14 months.
Wow.
Really don't have any desire to. But at the same point, it's a little stressful to be thinking about. Now, I am Miss Social Butterfly. I miss seeing people, but it's like, crowd, somebody might want to hug me. But like, we are flying this week. And the thought of getting on a plane, the plane doesn't do as much as just the crowds and going through all of that, because we have been so isolated. And and when we're having to do virtual doctor's appointments, I mean, that's the other thing is, they're not picking up on the subtle and maybe even the not so subtle signs, but it's just something that I think we all need to be paying much more attention to the people that we're interacting with, and especially if we're only seeing them on this screen. And looking at, this person is normally somebody who's very nicely dressed, and they're not so much. Now, it's funny because, we've been doing this now for over a year, so we have gotten more casual, just because it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not putting on the fancy shirt again, just to sit here. I tell people the reason I don't want to go back to in-person networking is I don't want to put shoes on. But yeah, we need to, and as a manager of somebody, you need to watch those things. And especially if you are only doing group meetings. And so how, it's very difficult. It's one thing to approach somebody and say, are you feeling okay? Because, you might notice a physical thing, but how do you talk to somebody about this without them going, completely shutting down or taking offense or something?
It's a tricky situation. So if you approach it as you become to be the friend next door, so that's one of my phrases that I use. So you're gonna approach it like be the friend next door. Like my friend Dawn, she approached it gently. She said, I think you might be depressed. Now, if someone's working with you, you kind of want to open up the conversation with, perhaps, give them an example. Say, I've noticed some changes in you. What's happening in your world and life?
You're late to all of our Zooms. Is there something going on?
Exactly. What is going on? Not is there something? Because you don't want to leave with a yes, no answer. You want to leave it open-ended so then they feel compelled to explain some more. So that'll be helpful. So always
because if you say, are you okay?
Yes.
The response you're going to get is fine.
Fine. And there's a funny acronym for that one that wouldn't be appropriate for error, but
the F stands for
And so you want to open it up with an open-ended question and not be accusatory, but gentle, as if just being a friend, and then also, how can I help? And if they are struggling with more than that, if it seems more serious, because depression is on a spectrum, and there's 5 phases. So throughout my course of having depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, one of the checkpoints I do with my mental health check. So I do a mental health check every day, and it's a process of just pausing for a minute to see where I'm at, especially if I'm feeling scrambled or stressed. I'll just pause for a moment, kind of do a body scan and say, okay, where is this happening? Is this stress, anxiety? Is it depression? Am I having any pains? And just kind of like do that mental health check, because it's important, as important as brushing your teeth, right? twice a day, you wash your face, do your mental health check.
Mhm.
So brush your teeth, wash your face, do your mental health check.
Mhm.
But the 5 phases, so I've recognized that I can be anywhere in the 5 phases.
Mhm.
And I equate it to 5 phases of a storm.
Mhm.
So on the first phase, it's sunny.
Right. Everything's hunky dory.
right. Not a cloud in the
Mhm.
sky,
Mhm.
right? The next phase, it's like, okay, so it's still kind of sunny, but there's a couple of clouds coming in. So it's slightly cloudy. The third phase is when it's more cloudy and starting to get dark. So, and in phase 2 and 3, you're kind of feeling like, just a little off. You might be a little demotivated or finding it hard to, stay in
I
a
think
good.
I'm going to go take a nap.
Exactly. Right. Although I'm a big fan of naps.
I know, we like naps. I want to go back to being in kindergarten, right?
Me too. Yes. Graham crackers, milk, and a nap, right? So then the third phase is that, it's starting to get slightly cloudy. The fourth phase is now it's really dark and cloudy. The storms are coming. It's raining, it's pouring, the lightning's coming in. And in this phase, you're really feeling kind of like, you're rocking the boat, you're kind of like, okay, I'm not feeling, you got to check in, say, am I feeling myself? If I'm not feeling myself, what am I experiencing? And some of those things are, you might just be scrambled, I find myself scrambled, not able to focus, might be obsessed with a project, you might be isolating, you may be just blowing everything off, you're avoiding things, maybe at work, you're usually really great with the clients and now you're not making phone calls, or you're in sales and your sales are dropping, or your productivity is dropping. Something is definitely going on. You're starting to see like this really, kind of like scary space.
Right.
And in 2, 3, and 4 is when you want to really call attention to it and kind of course correct, as if you're a ship in the storm. And because you don't want to get to 5, because 5 is the tornado.
5 is danger.
Danger, and you are spiraling, and you can end up in that vortex of the tornado. And that vortex is the dark thoughts. So at the bottom of that vortex is where you're, maybe suicidal, you might be planning your life, you might be thinking, my family deserves more, I don't really deserve this life.
Right. Or you might be wanting to harm others. I mean,
exactly, that too. And so when we can put it in a phase, right? So and then recognize it and then course correct, then, we can get back to who we are and how we like to operate our lives. When it comes to other people, so let's say we're talking about, working with someone, how do we have those difficult conversations? If they say, I'm not really doing well, and every situation is different. If I'm not doing really well, I'm struggling, I am having this and this and this. And you could say, well, what can I do to help you? What can we do together? And if they are really starting to talk negative and alarming, and they're having dark thoughts, and they tell you, well, what are those dark thoughts? What, when did you last have them? And then if they say they don't want to be around anymore, that they are thinking of ending their life.
The world's better off without me.
Right. Do you have a plan? Right. You want to ask, do you have a plan? And if they say no, well, then that's a good thing, because there's still hope, right? If there's a plan, then
if it's, I've got all my pills, or
you want to take the pills away, you want to take the knives, any guns, lock them up. You want to be their advocate. Now, remember, you're probably their manager or someone that works with them. So really, that would be difficult, but calling a concerned family member or something that is good, giving them the day off to go see the doctor immediately. And if you're feeling like that person's in danger,
call 911.
Call 911. Exactly.
I mean, if you have to apologize to them, you apologize to them.
Exactly, because it's better safe than sorry. And they obviously were at the point of wanting to share it with somebody. And if we share, we have hope, and we really don't want to do it. And so, and that's, I've had suicidal planning for 4 times in my life. And you asked, how did I get here? And it was after my 4th plan in 2014 that I was planning in my life, end of my life. And when I got home, it's a long story, but I lost my car. I parked it a mile away from church. I went to church. I left really quickly, couldn't find the car because I'm sobbing all the way. It was a mile away near the cemetery. And,
everything that could go wrong did.
Right, it did. And so I'm crying, and it's 7:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to call them because they have young babies. I don't want to call them, and I didn't have the wherewithal to even Google where I usually go,
Right.
Dr. Google, the suicide prevention line. I didn't have the wherewithal to Google the mental health lifeline, right? And because you just don't, when you're in that dark space,
right? You're just not functioning.
You're not functioning. Things are not processing right. You're like, for me, it was my self-worth taking over, saying you're not worthy, you're not this, you're not that, you're horrible, they don't need you, they're fine alone, and all this stuff. And I'm in so much pain, and all I want to do is end the pain. Like, I love my family, they didn't do anything to make me this way. I love my kids. I, don't want to do anything to harm them. I love my life, but I just don't feel like I'm worth living anymore. If it's worth living, or the pain. And so it really has nothing to do with anybody.
Right.
So when people say, suicide is selfish, it's selfless. They're trying to help everybody around them, but they're just really trying to get out of the pain they're in, because they're not in the moment getting the support they need. So when it's, you're having that conversation, it's definitely good to call 911. If it's kind of like between 4 and 5 and they say, no, I don't have a plan yet, and get them the numbers, which I can share with Deb. I actually can share my screen if you like. Get the phone numbers for your National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And then there's also, here in the States, we have Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA. And I picked those two for US because they're available 24/7, 365 days a year. There's lots of organizations with lifelines. Those are the ones that are most available.
Right. And there's some specific, like, veterans and, things like that. So
exactly. I mean, and what I suggest is get that now, like, get those numbers now, put them phone for your favorites. If it's not for you, you may need it for somebody else.
Right.
And either or, hitting a number that is the suicide prevention line is a lot easier than having to search for it, even in your contact.
Right, because you're going to get befuddled and think, And,
and even if you're not the one that's thinking of suicide or thinking you're mentally,
you might see somebody in a parking lot that you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to dial 911.
Yes.
And you can't dial 911.
Exactly. And further than that is that you could call those numbers if you're not the person, and you can ask for support for the person you want to support, and they can give you resources. Another good resource is Psychology Today. They drill down into providers in your area.
Oh, okay.
So there's so many resources online. Just make sure they're legitimate medical. But those were some really serious conversations. And now that you have the symptoms, you know what the solutions can be, and the sound bites of what to say. I'm happy to say that you've graduated to be a friend next door and be able to help the people, help yourself, and help the people you work with and you love. And it's really about us knowing what is happening and how to have those conversations.
Right. Well, and a lot of it really is just paying attention. Maybe you haven't seen your neighbor outside in a while.
Exactly.
And they're normally the person who's out gardening every day. Check on them again. At the least you're going to have to apologize. But maybe there's something physically wrong. Maybe they fell. All sorts of things. And so it's okay to kind of be the nosy neighbor. But I think that's the thing. I mean, we get concerned that people are going to be offended, that they're going to, again, I'd rather apologize and say, you know what, I just hadn't seen you outside in a while, and I was concerned, or your mail was piling up. I mean, all these various things, so sorry if I intruded, but I was concerned. And, yeah, they might be cranky, but you much prefer that to the alternative.
I agree. And I think anytime anyone shows care, compassion towards you, even if you're cranky at the beginning, it's going to settle within later. You say, oh, wow, they really cared about me. They reached out.
Right.
And a lot of people don't do that. So just reaching out, whether you're on point or off point, isn't the case, because they may come back to you in a couple of days and say, when you asked me what was going on, well, this is really what's going on.
Right.
And I'm really glad you asked. And always end it with, well, if anything is happening or you need any help at all, consider me a resource. I'm here for you. It doesn't mean you have to let them move in with you or, you're going, you're going to do everything for them, but just let them know that you're open and you're confidential and you're there to support them in whatever way you can.
Right.
Because everyone wants to know that they're supported.
Yeah. And I think that's been the thing that people have commented the most about COVID is I'm feeling alone and I'm feeling isolated. Now, I mean, when my introverted friends are saying that, it's like, oh, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I am Miss Social Butterfly. And for me to go weeks without leaving the house. Now, granted, it does help that usually I have a doctor's appointment, so I'm out and about at least once a week. But yeah, when and we recognize that in ourselves, if you're stopping to think, when was the last time I put on shoes and left the house? And we did get, it's great to have your groceries delivered and, all of those things, but maybe it's, let's take a walk. Let's see what's going on in the neighborhood. Things like that. And, and we also need to be watching what people are posting online. What are they saying on Facebook, on whatever, and I mean, I have a friend who she likes to post song lyrics. And I mean, they're not songs that I recognize. So I don't always know, okay, this is a song lyric. And I mean, there have been times where it's been very concerning. And she's like, oh no, it was just the song that was on. But at the same point, it's like, oh, maybe there's still something there. But yeah, it's, and so just be watching those things. And even if it's that, they used to post every day and now they're not, what's going on? Maybe they just got in trouble and are in Facebook jail, but, it is something to be watching. And again, it is much better to apologize for caring too much than to have something very tragically happen.
Exactly. And one of the other things that we can do one of the things I needed to do was create kind of a mental wellness kit. So I have a beautiful basket. I give everybody permission to go to Joann's or Hobby Lobby and buy them a nice basket this weekend with a lid. And in that space, because when I'm in those dark spaces, I have a hard time remembering what I like to do or who I like to do.
Okay.
And so in this basket are special gifts I've gotten from people or special letters that make me feel good, letters to myself I've written. And then I also have a list of all the things I like to do, like even going to the walk for the Arboretum. I forget I like to do that. I like to wade in the water or go bird watching or garden or anything, right? So anything, and the people that I like to call or that I can call on moment's notice. And then of course the emergency numbers. And that has been so helpful to me because when I do get in those dark spots, and it doesn't have to be phase 4 or phase 3, it could just be phase 2.
Yeah, because a lot of phase 2 could turn into 3 and 4.
So just to be able to go back and reference and say, oh yeah, let's go for a walk, at this park or whatever, like it's just really helpful. And the other piece of that too is when you're not feeling like you want to be alone or can be alone, is to tell someone. So there's a lot of courage for us that it takes to ask for help. For so many of us, we struggle with that because we feel like we have to take on everything and take care of everybody. And so the one thing that I had to do one day is I woke up and I knew that day I could not be alone. This was just a couple summers ago. And for whatever reason, I couldn't be alone. And I had to muster up all the courage to be able to say, I can't be alone today. And then I had to go one step further, Deb, because I had to pull my husband off the golf course.
Oh no, off the golf course.
off the golf course. So that took even extra courage. So if anybody, if I can do that, the double courage amount, I assure you, you can find the courage.
Right.
Let someone know that you're hurting, and let someone know that, you can't be alone on a certain day, or, say, I think I might need help, or say I'm having dark thoughts. Like, sometimes we don't even know what words to use. So hopefully what we've talked about today with the symptoms and the solution options and the sound bites,
Right.
and the phase of the storm, and be the friend next door. Hopefully somebody has been able to take something, nuggets away that'll help them or someone they care about or work with.
Right. And again, it is a disease like other diseases. We wouldn't hesitate to tell people, hey, my blood sugar's off, or, all these various things. So why not say, I'm needing a little extra help today. And if you're that person that someone has been brave enough to talk to, please don't blow them off. Don't go, oh yeah, whatever, go have a glass of wine. Cindy, just go have a glass of wine, and now sometimes that does solve the problem. But yeah, if somebody has been brave enough to reach out to you, please, take them very seriously, because it probably really did take everything they had to be able to reach out.
For sure. Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage.
It does. It does. Well, oh my gosh, this has been, it's been a very serious conversation. But it's a good conversation, one that I think we obviously need to have more and more of. I laugh when people say, oh, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. They're not getting back to normal. The way it was in January of 2020 ain't gonna happen again. I have people that, are you, physically, they'll ask me, well, are you feeling normal now? I've had 19 surgeries. I'm not going back to the way I was 5 years ago, but that's okay. We figure, okay, this is where we are now. Here's how we go forward. And, and it's that way with everything, and do we all wish that things would go back? Sure. But it's graduation week for a lot of people. And I'm sure there are lots of parents going, oh, I wish they were 5 years old again. Right. But we also, but you also are so looking forward to the next stages in their lives. And, and that's the thing to remember is, with all of us, mental and physical, we need to get on to the next stage and, and do that. So, this has been absolutely fascinating. So tell people how they connect with you.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you. My website is getsoconnected.com. It'll take you to the main site. And on there, there's a contact or connect page where you can connect with me directly if you have any specific questions. There is also a form on there that you can say that you want to be on my newsletter. You could also purchase the book online for Called to Lead, Success Strategies for Women, which is about international.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. What are some of the other chapters like?
Yes. So the book is comprised of 18 international women leaders.
Okay.
Who felt that they were called to lead. Like I feel like I was called to speak. I also feel called in this arena. And so they all share. It's different than other anthologies, so to speak. I call it more of a collaborative piece of work because we've all shared our stories about what it is most important for other leaders who feel called to know about our experience so they can apply it to their experience and hopefully, bypass some of the mistakes we've made. Because we also give our favorite quotes, we give our advice, and we give some takeaways that you can act on. Great. So it's a little bit different. It's more of an action book. So I hope if that's something that speaks to you, that you do find, take a look at my website and reach out to me. Perfect. And I'm happy to make sure we get you a signed copy.
I love it. And again, the book is Called to Lead, Success Strategies for Women. So I can't wait to, because I've read the one chapter, I've read your chapter, but I can't wait to read the other chapters. So this will be wonderful.
Yes, I'll have yours in the mail soon.
I always like getting presents. Such fun. Well, this really has been eye-opening. It's been a wonderful discussion. I hope it really has made people think, not only about themselves, but others. How can we be helping others? I mean, this is, it's become a very remote world, and we need to bring it back into a very personal world. And I think that's the thing, is to remember, we're just because we're on a screen and maybe 1,000 miles apart doesn't mean we still can't, act like we're sitting together having a cup of coffee.
Exactly. And I applaud you for bringing this onto your show. It's not what's considered normal in business to, talk about, but it's so relevant and important that more business podcasts are bringing it up as as an important topic.
Right.
So thank you for having the courage to bring this on.
Well,
I'm certain you were a friend next door to many people today, and I'm sure you made a difference in some lives.
Well,
And
and Cindy, thank you so much for sharing your story, because as you were saying, I think that is one of the things that, the more we hear about it, the more it really does become normal. And we think, oh, okay, what can we do to help?
Exactly. And that's what it's all about.
I love it. I love it. Well, do you have any final words of wisdom for everyone?
Do your mental health check after you brush your teeth and wash your face. You can do a mental health check as many times a day as you like, and just keep in tune with what's going on with you, what kind of support you need, and then what kind of support other people may need. And let's just all be there for each other so we can help each other live the lives we deserve, because none of us deserve to struggle.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, I am Deb Creer. I've been having an absolutely wonderful, enlightening discussion with Cindy Tschosik. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.